Before I get to the show, I have a question. And maybe it's kind of a stupid question, but this is something I'm really wondering about. Why have Bischoff and Hogan not been arrested yet? Not only did they screw Dixie Carter out of her company, but then they went on national television, outright admitted they screwed her out of her company, then went on Reaction and explained step by step by step exactly how they screwed her out of her company. It seems to me that Dixie and her team of lawyers have all the evidence they could possibly need to easily get Hogan and Bischoff imprisoned for massive multi-million-dollar fraud. They basically made a video confessional about how they coerced her into signing these documents under false pretenses, and yet they've faced no legal ramifications for any of this. I don't really buy that. I guess they want us to chalk it up to suspension of disbelief, but still, that's a pretty big pill to swallow. Impact was a lot like last week. Very storyline heavy, a lot of angles, a lot of interviews, a lot of promos, and not much in the way of wrestling. There was a little bit more wrestling than last week. Not a lot more, but a little more. Unfortunately, not all of it was good. And honestly, I don't think there's ever been a time in the history of this company when the wrestling has meant less than it does right now, because the product has become so story-driven that it's created an environment where the wrestling aspect of the show is essentially meaningless. And in fact, wrestling matches are almost presented as if they're unwelcome on the show now, because really, they just get in the way of the storylines, which is the only thing the writers care about. It doesn't matter who wins and loses, it doesn't matter who goes over who, because the only thing of any importance is this huge takeover angle. Hell, the only parts of Impact that really resemble a pro wrestling show are the parts that are not directly involved with the takeover angle right now, and consequently, these are the only matches where we get clean finishes. That's the tag team division, the knockout division, and whatever passes for the X division these days. We saw Mickie James make her in-ring Impact debut against Sarita. Mickie, who's looking sexy as hell in that Daisy Duke ring gear, by the way, oh my lord. And you know what? This was a good match. Basically the exact same match they had on Explosion, and I hate that Sarita is being used as enhancement talent, but this was way better than what the Knockouts have been delivering lately, which shows you what can happen when you take the focus off the beautiful people for 5 minutes. But apparently we can't have a show without the beautiful people because that would be sacrilege. So they had a backstage segment where Katie Lee Burchill debuted. I guess they're doing a Mickey Trish thing with her and Angelina. But I couldn't focus on this at all because of what happened right before it. Miss Tessmacher comes in to talk with them. See, Bischoff fired her from her Knockout GM job after 2 weeks, so if she wants to stay in TNA, she has to learn how to wrestle. And who does she ask to teach her how to wrestle? Lacey Von Erich and Velvet Sky. Because she wants to learn from the best. Then there's the X Division. The match did have a clean finish, but oh my god, what are you doing to Amazing Red? I know he's not getting pushed right now, but he's one of the best wrestlers on your roster. He's still over as hell, and he's a 3-time X Division champion. He deserves more respect than this. You just feed him to this Jersey Shore parody character and have him get destroyed in less than 2 minutes? Couldn't Robbie just squash someone who's worthless like Orlando Jordan or Rob Terry? Why do you have to make Amazing Red look like shit? TNA, this guy is your Rey Mysterio. What the hell are you thinking? And Robbie is not getting over, by the way. The crowd is pissing all over this guy. It's not heel heat, it's the fans saying, this character is stupid, we want him to go away. But there's no chance of that since he's the one feuding with the crappy reality show, so he's the one getting the TMZ plugs. So I guess we're gonna have to put up with this for a while. That would be easier if he delivered in the ring, but no one can deliver in the ring when the match only lasts for 90 seconds. Jay Lethal, the X Division champion, nowhere to be seen 2 weeks in a row. So at this rate, it looks like his current title reign is going to be about as well booked as all his previous title reigns were, and that's pretty sad. Then we had the tag team division, which had this video package about Team 3D. It was a really good video. It got all the important stuff over. They've accomplished everything. They've won every set of tag titles there is to win. I guess the Ring of Honor tag titles don't count. They're going after one last title match, and if the Guns win, they'll be the team that retired Team 3D. This was all really good. It will, of course, be rendered meaningless if Team 3D do not retire after this match, which I'm worried about since they did re-sign with the company. Hopefully they'll just take backstage roles after this. So that was the pro wrestling. As for everything else, I gotta be honest, I don't like this. There's just too damn many people in this storyline. Immortal's got like, what, 10 people in it? Nobody's gonna get spotlighted in that group. The writers are trying to use all of them, but when you try to spotlight everyone, you spotlight no one. Even Jeff Hardy was barely on the show, and he's the world champion. Nobody in this faction is going to benefit from this. The only people who look like they might be spotlighted here are Pope, Ken Anderson, and maybe Samoa Joe. But if they want to push Samoa Joe, they need to get their heads out of their asses real fast because he's getting buried big time. After Bound for Glory, getting punked out by Jeff Jarrett and those 2 jobber security guards was exactly what Samoa Joe did not need. Joe desperately needs to get his heat back. You have to make him look like he's a killing machine who's out for blood, but when you have him get one-upped by Jeff Jarrett again... Have you noticed that Joe's crowd pops have been getting smaller recently? This is the reason why. You had AJ Styles defend the TV title against the Pope in a 6-minute street fight. And this is what I was talking about with the no clean finishes thing. The only reason they made this a street fight in the first place was so it could be a no DQ match so Abyss could interfere and help AJ win. Because AJ Styles, a 4-time world champion, can't win matches clean anymore. Because he's a heel. He's immortal. They don't win matches clean. Because, well, they just don't. This might do something for the Pope, but it does nothing for AJ, and in fact it damages AJ's character when he can't win a match clean. And Kazarian was put in the same situation. You put him in an Ultimate X with Ken Anderson. I won't even go into the stupidity of pissing away another Ultimate X like this, but when you overbook the match this much, it's not even a match anymore, it's just another angle. You put Anderson in a match that doesn't favor his style of wrestling at all, you have him sell a shoulder injury so people know in advance that he can't climb the ropes, then you have him get beat down completely unnecessarily right before the match starts so he can barely move when the bell rings, and all this makes for a pretty crappy Ultimate X. You can say this was all done to put heel heat on Kaz. That's not what happened. This ruined Kaz, because even with all that stuff working in his favor, he still needed help from like 5 guys to win the match. It didn't make Kaz look dangerous, it made him look like a jobber who needed his buddies to bail him out against a guy who had everything working against him but was still kicking Kaz's ass. Why not just have a story be that Kaz wins the match because this is an X Division match that favors the high flyer? Anderson makes a valiant effort, but he loses because he's out of his element in a match like this while Kaz is totally at home. Kaz gets credibility by beating Anderson clean, and the heel heat comes from Kaz putting Anderson in this spot in the first place because it was a no-win situation for him and everyone knew it. But instead, you injure Anderson until he's half dead, and then he still nearly beats Kaz at his own game. This didn't elevate Kaz, it made him look ridiculous. Again, it's the pro wrestling aspect being thrown away in favor of angles because the storylines dictate that all this stuff happens. But when you lose the pro wrestling aspect, you lose the whole point of the show. Now, I will say this, the production team is doing a great job right now. They're incorporating more of that reaction Daco-style feel into these backstage segments. I like this a lot. It's a different style of presenting this stuff than we haven't seen before, and anytime you can say that, it's a great thing. WWE doesn't do anything like this, so that's good. Production-wise, they've taken a lot of steps forward, but creatively, they've still got a lot of problems. Now, on Reaction this week, they tried to make sense of this whole conspiracy angle. They explained some of the stuff that wasn't adding up. They covered some of their bases, but not all of them. Some of the inconsistencies that Big D talked about on QCW a few weeks ago are still there. I'm willing to accept some of this, but I still think this could have been set up a lot better. I mean, the Jeff Hardy swerve was a shocker that maybe sort of makes sense now, but the bottom line is everyone saw the Hogan-Bischoff heel turn coming from a mile away. They couldn't have made it more obvious if they tried. And if they think for 1 second that this was a huge surprise that fooled everyone, then they're living in a fantasy world.